Welcome, dear listener. Tonight, we enter the world of Harry Potter, not in battle, but in dreams. A hidden chapter, untold in books. The story of Hedwig, the owls, and the whisper of the philosopher's stone. Close your eyes, relax, and let English words guide you into calmness and sleep. This is not just magic. This is your bedtime story.
Harry Potter, Hedwig, and the whisper of the stone. The owl and the candlelight. It was late evening at Hogwarts. The Gryffindor common room was quiet, the fire burning low. Harry sat by the window, a single candle beside him, its flame flickering gently. Hedwig perched silently on the chair's back, her golden eyes glowing with patience. The silence wrapped around Harry like a blanket. For a moment, he felt serenity, a rare calmness that the castle sometimes gave him at night. Outside, the moon painted silver shadows across the courtyard, and in the distance, he could hear the faint rustle of owls flying. He thought about Ron and Hermione. Ron probably snoring loudly upstairs, dreaming without fear. Hermione maybe still reading by candlelight, determined to finish one more chapter before sleep. A small smile touched Harry's lips. They were here, safe, just a few steps away, and that thought brought warmth to his chest. But then, his mind wandered to the people who could not be near. His parents, the ones he had only seen in mirrors, in photographs, or in the echo of a spell. Sometimes, when the tower was quiet like this, he almost believed he could hear his mother's laugh in the firelight, or his father's footsteps on the stairs. The longing was sharp, but also gentle, like a memory wrapped in soft cloth. He reached out and stroked Hedwig's feathers. "At least I have you," he whispered. The owl hooted softly, as if in agreement. Harry closed his eyes for a moment, pretending that this peace, this moment of stillness, could last forever. Part 2. The Strange Letter. Hedwig shifted, tapping her beak against Harry's arm. A small silver envelope was tied to her leg. Harry frowned, his brows knitting together. He hadn't given her any letters that day. He untied the ribbon and pulled the note into the candlelight. The ink shimmered like liquid moonlight. "Follow the owls. They will show you what the stone remembers." Harry felt curiosity rise in his chest, stronger than he expected. His fingers trembled slightly. The letter felt colder than parchment should. He thought about Dumbledore, who had once told him that the Philosopher's Stone was destroyed. Could it be a trick, a trap, or maybe, just maybe, a gift? He glanced at the staircase, thinking of Ron's loud breathing in the dormitory above. Ron would tell him he was mad to follow such a letter. Hermione would insist on research before any action. A soft laugh escaped Harry's lips. They weren't here now. Tonight, the choice was his alone. Hedwig blinked slowly, her feathers ruffling. She spread her wings, as though already knowing the path. Harry stood, heart quickening. "All right," he whispered. "Show me then." Part 3. The Midnight Flight. The corridors of Hogwarts were dark and echoing. Harry wrapped his cloak tightly around himself, his footsteps barely a whisper on the stone floor. Hedwig flew ahead, a pale shadow against the darker night. The portraits stirred as he passed. One wizard in blue robes yawned, muttering, "Too late for adventures, Potter." Another leaned forward, eyes bright with interest, whispering to a neighbor about old magic returning. Harry tried not to shiver. He remembered sneaking through these same halls with Ron and Hermione, facing dangers they hadn't been ready for, but had survived together. The memory gave him courage, even as the silence pressed close. At the owlery, the air was alive with sound. Hundreds of owls sat waiting, their golden eyes glowing in the moonlight. Then, as though obeying one silent command, they all took flight at once. The sight stole his breath. Harry stood in awe as the sky filled with wings, feathers glowing faintly, as if painted by the moon itself. The owls moved together, flowing like a great river of stars. For a heartbeat, Harry felt like he was flying with them, weightless, free. Part 4. The Memory of the Stone. The owls circled above the forbidden forest, their glowing wings shaping an image in the sky, a red stone burning softly in the night. Harry whispered, "The Philosopher's Stone." The words felt strange, dangerous, and yet oddly comforting on his tongue. The night filled with echoes, voices that seemed familiar and unfamiliar at once. Among them, he thought he heard Dumbledore. The stone is not just treasure. It remembers the dreams of those who touched it. Harry's heart clenched. He thought of his parents, of the dream he always carried, to hear them, to know them, to belong with them. The nostalgia was bittersweet. He remembered the mirror of Ursit, that cruel gift of showing him what he most desired but could not have. His throat ached with the memory of his parents' faces, so close yet untouchable. And yet, tonight, the stone's whisper seemed gentler, less cruel. For a moment, he closed his eyes, letting himself imagine them beside him, his mother's hand in his father's laugh echoing in the forest. Just for a second, he let himself believe. Part 5. The Gift of Hedwig. As the other owls dissolved into the night, only Hedwig remained. She landed gently on Harry's shoulder, her feathers glowing faintly with starlight. Harry felt enchantment wrap around him, soft and warm. It wasn't just magic in the air, it was love, trust, the bond between him and his owl. He thought of how many nights Hedwig had been his only companion, how she had carried his letters, his secrets, his hopes across the skies, how she had comforted him when no one else could. His heart filled with gratitude. He buried his face in her soft feathers, whispering, "Thank you." Hedwig hooted gently, leaning into him. Harry felt less alone than he had in weeks. Part 6. The Hall of Portraits. Hedwig led Harry through a narrow passage hidden behind a tapestry. The air smelled of dust and candle wax, as though no student had walked here for centuries. At last, they entered a long hall lined with ancient portraits. The painted witches and wizards leaned closer as he passed. One whispered, "The stone shows the heart as it truly is." Harry stopped, listening with fascination. Some portraits smiled at him warmly, while others gazed with sorrowful eyes. He thought of the portraits in Dumbledore's office, guardians of wisdom, voices from the past. These felt older, heavier, carrying truths that pressed against his chest. He wondered what the stone might show of him. Would it reveal the boy who longed for family, the friend who feared losing Ron and Hermione, or the fighter who had faced Voldemort and lived? The thought made his heart race, half with fear, half with longing. He paused under the gaze of one portrait of a kind-looking witch. For a second, he imagined she had his mother's eyes. His throat tightened, and he hurried on. Part 7. The Chamber of Owls. The hidden passage opened into a wide chamber. Hundreds of owls sat in a great circle, their eyes glowing like tiny lanterns. The air was still, filled with quiet expectation. Harry felt the space was tranquil, but also solemn, as if the owls themselves were guardians of something ancient. Their wings rustled once, and silence followed again, heavier than before. He thought of all the times owls had carried letters of hope. Hagrid's first invitation to Hogwarts, Hermione's long scrolls full of advice, Sirius's brief but precious words. Each letter had been a thread pulling him away from loneliness, weaving him into the world he now belonged to. Now, surrounded by owls, he felt that same comfort. They were not just birds, they were messengers, bridges between worlds. And tonight, they seemed to be carrying a message meant only for him. Harry bowed his head slightly, as though to honor them. The owls blinked in unison, acknowledging his respect. Part 8. The Vision of the Stone. At the center of the chamber stood a pedestal, its stone base wrapped in ivy. On top of it burned a single red flame. As Harry approached, the light swirled into shapes. Visions came alive. Nicholas Flamel at his desk, whispering to the stone. A younger Dumbledore carefully locking it away. And then Voldemort, a shadowy figure, his hands reaching with desperate hunger. The images swirled like mist, pulling Harry closer. His heart pounded, unsure if he was seeing memory or warning. He remembered the Triwizard Tournament, the graveyard, the echo of Voldemort's cruel laughter. He remembered Cedric, and grief rose like a tide. The stone seemed to know, showing him not just power, but the cost of it. Yet, through the fear, he felt something else, calm, almost serenity. The visions weren't here to harm him, but to teach him. Magic was not about greed or fear. It was about choice. Part 9. The Choice. The red flame flickered, and a voice filled the chamber. You may ask one question, young wizard, but every answer has a weight. Harry's breath caught. His first thought was of his parents. He wanted to ask if they were proud of him. He wanted to ask if they still watched over him. The ache was almost unbearable. But then Ron's laugh echoed in his memory. Hermione's firm, determined voice, Ginny's courage, Neville's loyalty, Luna's strange but steady wisdom, his friends, his family of choice. He whispered instead, "What must I become to protect them?" The flame brightened, filling the chamber with warmth. The voice replied, "You must carry both courage and kindness, for one without the other is an empty gift." Harry closed his eyes, his heart filled with gratitude, not for the answer alone, but for the reminder that strength was not about magic, it was about love. The return to sleep. The chamber slowly faded, and Harry felt Hedwig's wing brush against his cheek. He opened his eyes to find himself back in the Gryffindor dormitory, the soft red curtains drawn around his bed.
Hedwig perched quietly above him, her feathers still faintly glowing. The blanket beneath him felt like a cushion, warm and safe.
Harry's eyes grew heavy. He was drowsy, but not afraid. For the first time in many nights, he felt truly protected. He thought of his parents one last time before sleep. He imagined Ron and Hermione safe in their beds just a few steps away. He imagined Sirius somewhere beyond, watching over him. The ache in his chest softened into peace. As he drifted off, he heard the faintest whisper, carried on the night air. "Dream well, Harry. The greatest magic is not power, but love."
Vocabulary: candle wax, восковые свечи, tapestry, гобелен, тканое панно, curtains drawn, задернутые шторы, perch, садиться, сидеть, о птицах, rustle, шелест, шорох, hoot, уханье, звук совы, flutter, трепетать, дрожать, о веках, крыльях, frown, хмуриться, tighten, сжиматься, напрягаться, hesitate, колебаться, сомневаться, ache, боль, ноющая тоска, longing, сильное желание, тоска, clench, сжимать, кулаки, сердце, yearn, жаждать, стремиться, cloak, плащ, мантия, pedestal, пьедестал, постамент, flame, пламя, mist, туман, дымка, whisper, шептать, swirl, кружиться, закручиваться, fade, угасать, исчезать, glow, светиться, мягко сиять, courage, смелость, храбрость, kindness, доброта, loyalty, верность, strength, сила и внутренняя, и физическая. Thank you, dear listener. And if you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any future lessons. And please, share this episode with anyone you know who is also learning English. It would mean a lot for me. And I love to hear from you. So please leave a comment below telling us about your day in English. or any other topics you'd like us to talk about in the future. Read your comments and appreciate your feedback. So, until next time, keep practicing your English and have a wonderful day. Bye, everyone.